Hi everyone. Let us know where you're listening from. Don't forget to subscribe and give us a thumbs up. Enjoy the story. It was Alina's first wedding anniversary when her father asked, "Daughter, why did you come by bus? Where's the car I gave you?" Alina quietly replied, "Dad, my husband sold it to buy his mother a new fur coat." Her father turned white like a sheet. But what her mother said next shocked everyone. But before that moment, there was still an hour of silence, fake smiles, and the heavy smell of her mom's birthday cake, which felt suffocating to Alina. It had all started with the bus. She stood at the bus stop, holding a gift bag for her parents. The bag looked nice with golden ribbons, but inside was just a cheap coffee grinder, similar to the one they already had but simpler. It was all she could afford. A year ago on her wedding day, her father had handed her the keys to a brand new foreign car. He hugged her and whispered, "My daughter should always ride in a car, not be squeezed in a bus." Now 1 year later, here she was, back on the bus. The bus was packed. People pushed. The air was heavy with fumes and sweat. Alina squeezed into a corner, trying not to wrinkle her dress or the gift bag. It was her only nice dress, simple dark cherry color. She looked at her reflection in the bus window and barely recognized herself. Tired eyes. Sad mouth. Where was the happy bride from a year ago? All the way there, she rehearsed what she'd say. Rodion, her husband, had already given her his version the night before. He spoke with passion about how his mother had always dreamed of a mink coat, how she sacrificed everything for him. "Alina, understand," he said. "It's a gesture. I want to show my mom I appreciate her. Car is just metal. We'll buy another one, an even better one." Yesterday, Alina had almost believed him, or at least pretended to. Arguing with Rodion was useless, especially when he acted like the perfect son. It was easier to agree. But now, sitting in that noisy, smelly bus, the story felt silly and wrong. Selling her father's gift to buy a fur coat for her mother-in-law sounded crazy. When she got off the bus, her legs felt like cotton. There it was, her parents' home. A neat 2-story brick house with a lovely garden. Warm lights shone from the windows. It smelled like comfort, everything she now realized was missing in her own life. She took a deep breath, forced a smile, and walked through the gate. Her mom, Lydia, met her with a hug. "My beautiful girl. You've lost weight." She led Alina inside, where the table was already set with all her favorite foods. Grandma's Olivier salad, baked chicken with apples, and cabbage pie. Her father, Ignat, came out of his study. Tall, silver-haired, wearing his favorite checkered shirt. He hugged her, but his eyes were sharp. He noticed right away. "You're quiet today, daughter. Tired?" he asked, pouring himself a little cognac. "Yes, a bit," Alina lied. "Work's been hectic." "Where's Rodka?" he asked. He didn't like his son-in-law, though he tried to hide it. He always called him Rodka, with a tone of mockery. "He had a work meeting. He'll come later," she said. That lie came more easily. Rodion had actually told her he'd come late, so she could prepare her parents first. The first half hour felt like pretending it was a celebration. Her mom talked about the neighbors, her flowers, a new TV show. Alina nodded, smiled, chewed her salad. It all tasted like nothing. Her father sat silently, sipping his cognac, watching Alina closely. He didn't say anything at first, but his eyes kept asking questions. Alina could feel his gaze, and it made everything worse. He didn't ask the real question. Instead, he danced around it, but the tension kept growing. "So, how's the car? Changed the oil yet?" he asked casually while cutting into the chicken. Alina's heart dropped. "Here we go," she thought. "Yes, it's fine, Dad," she mumbled, avoiding eye contact. "Strange. I thought you'd come in it. The weather's not great. Drizzling outside. Not really a day for buses, especially on your wedding anniversary." He placed the biggest piece of chicken on her plate. His words were calm, but each one hit like a punch. Alina didn't respond. Her cheeks turned red. Her mom noticed and tried to steer the conversation away. Oh, Ignat, stop bothering her about the car. Maybe it's being fixed. Let's toast to the young couple instead. But Ignat wouldn't let it go. He could tell something wasn't right. His gut feeling, his fatherly instinct told him. His daughter was hiding something. He set his fork down hard on the table. The sound echoed in the room. Alina, look at me. Slowly, she lifted her head. His eyes weren't angry, just serious and firm. Daughter, why did you come by bus? Where's the car I gave you? At that moment, all the lies Alina had prepared fell apart. She couldn't lie. Not to her father. She stared at her hands in her lap and said softly, barely holding back tears. Dad, my husband sold it. The room went silent. Her mom gasped, covering her mouth. Her father stared at her, unblinking. His face slowly changed, from shock to confusion, then to fury. Sold it. What do you mean, sold it? He said again, like he didn't believe what he'd heard. He said it was necessary. Alina's voice trembled. He bought his mother a new fur coat. The words came out like a confession. She closed her eyes, bracing for what would come. And the storm hit. Her father stood up so fast. The chair scraped loudly behind him. His face went pale. He didn't shout. But his quiet voice was even scarier. A fur coat. He sold my gift. The car I saved up for 3 years. So my daughter could travel safely and with dignity. He sold it for a fur coat. Ignat, please calm down, her mom cried, getting up quickly. Don't interfere, Lida, he snapped, his burning eyes never leaving Alina. What is this? This is a slap in the face. Me. To you. He took my gift and threw it back at us, wrapped in some cheap rag. He began pacing the room like a trapped tiger. His fists were clenched tight. I knew he was a weak man. Mama's boy. But this. A fur coat. Do they not have money? He works. You work. You're one of the best vets in the city. You don't earn pennies. Alina sat hunched in her chair, wishing the floor would swallow her. She felt like she had betrayed her father. And now, she was showing her husband in the worst possible light. Dad, he said his mother dreamed of it. That it was his duty as a son. She tried to defend Rodden, but her words felt weak, almost sad. A son's duty. Her father stopped and slammed his hand on the table. The glasses rattled. And his duty as a husband. To you. To his family. Did he think about how you get to work? What about those calls outside the city? Did he think about that, your so-called son? Alina didn't say a word. Of course he didn't think. Or maybe he just didn't care. That's it, her father growled, grabbing his jacket from the hanger. I'm going to see this fur coat king and his mother right now. I'll look them both in the eye. I'll explain what real duty and respect for elders means. Ignat, please don't, her mom said, grabbing his arm. You'll only make things worse. It's their family. They should deal with it themselves. Themselves, he snapped, looking at Alina who sat there sobbing. Look at her. Does it look like they've figured anything out? He crushed her, and she's still defending him. Well, I'm not letting this go. He trampled all over my gift too. Everything reached a boiling point. Her father was ready to storm out the door. Her mother was crying, trying to hold him back. Alina just sat there, crying, unable to say a single word. What was supposed to be a celebration had turned into a nightmare. A family fight that felt like it could burst outside the walls of their home. Then, just as her father reached for the door handle, her mother's voice cut through the chaos. Quiet. But it stopped everyone in their tracks. That's impossible, she said. Her father froze. Alina looked up, her face wet with tears. Her mother stood in the middle of the room, completely still. She wasn't looking at anyone, just staring ahead, deep in thought, like she was putting pieces of a puzzle together in her head. What's impossible? Her father asked in a hoarse voice. The new fur coat, Lydia answered softly. Fina doesn't have one. I saw her this morning at the clinic. We bumped into each other at the front desk. She told me her dacha roof was leaking, and she didn't have the money to fix it. She said she's cutting back on everything, counting every penny. Her mother paused, and then her expression hardened. She looked directly at Alina. She even asked me for a loan, just 20,000. Said she needed it until retirement. The room went dead silent. Her father's loud anger disappeared, replaced by total confusion. Alina's tears had stopped. Her face felt cold, like the tears had frozen on her skin. And then the truth began to sink in, slowly and painfully. There was no fur coat. Fina was still broke and borrowing money. Everything Rodion told her was a lie, from start to finish. One question now hung in the air, unspoken but terrifying. If there was no fur coat, then where did the money from the car go? The silence in the room became thick, heavy. The smell of cold chicken, the untouched food, the ruined celebration. It all just sat there forgotten. Father Ignat slowly sank back into his chair. His face wasn't angry anymore, it was pale, almost gray. He stared at the untouched salad on Alina's plate and said nothing. Her mom walked over and gently placed a hand on Alina's shoulder. Her hand was warm, but Alina felt numb. Her whole body was frozen by one awful truth. Rodion lied to her. Not just lied. He made up a full story, complete with emotions, details, and fake meaning. And she, Alina, was the main fool in the entire act. "I'll go home," she whispered, standing up. Her legs felt like they didn't want to move. "I'll go with you," her father said quietly, without looking up. "No, Ignat. Don't," her mother said firmly. "Let her talk to him first. Just the two of them. If you go now, you'll only make things worse." Her father wanted to argue, but then looked at his wife, then at Alina, and let out a long, heavy sigh. He knew Lydia was right. Anger wouldn't fix this. Her mother helped her into the hallway like she used to when Alina was a child. She helped her put on her coat and quietly slipped a few crumpled bills into her hand. "Take a taxi. Don't ride the bus like this. And call us when you're on your way." Alina nodded. She couldn't speak. She stepped to the doorway, then turned back for one last look. Her father was still sitting at the table, hunched over. He looked like he had aged 10 years in just 1 hour. In the taxi, Alina stared at the city lights flashing past, but she didn't really see them. Rodion's words from the night before kept playing in her head, over and over, like a broken record. His serious eyes, his convincing voice, the way he spoke about his mother's lifelong dream. "Alinaka, you have to understand, it's not just a fur coat, it's a symbol. A symbol of my love and gratitude." How could he say something like that? And why? Why invent such a detailed lie about Fina Igorevna? If he needed money, why didn't he just tell the truth? A cold chill ran down her back. Maybe the truth was even worse than the stupid lie about the fur coat. The apartment was quiet when she walked in, but she could feel it. Rodion was home. He was sitting in the kitchen, waiting for her with only the night light on. As soon as she entered, he jumped up with a big, fake smile. "Alinaka, finally. I was getting tired of waiting. How are your parents? Did they like the coffee grinder?" He stepped forward to hug her, but stopped when he saw her cold, empty stare. She said nothing. She quietly took off her coat, hung it up, and walked to the kitchen. She sat down across from him. The smile disappeared from his face. "Did something happen?" he asked, now nervous. Alina looked at him for a long moment, studying the man she had lived with for a whole year. And suddenly he felt like a stranger. "I spoke to my mom," she said calmly. "She saw Fina Igorevna at the clinic today." Rodion flinched like someone had hit him. Panic flashed across his face. He tried to act surprised. "What? Clinic? Who knows? Maybe she asked my mom for a loan," Alina interrupted. "Said she didn't even have money to fix the roof." That was all she needed to say. His whole face changed. The charm, the confidence, the smooth talk. All of it fell away. Now he looked like a scared little boy. He covered his face with his hands. His shoulders began to shake. "I'm sorry, Alina. Please forgive me. I didn't know how to tell you," he sobbed. Alina sat there in silence. She didn't feel pity. She didn't feel anger. Just a cold emptiness. "It was Mom," he mumbled. "She came up with the fur coat story. Said it would sound more respectable. Said your parents wouldn't worry if I made it sound meaningful." His voice sounded hollow. He looked up at her with red, tear-filled eyes. "Would you rather I said I was in debt?" Then came the rest of the story, or at least what he claimed was the truth. He told her in a messy, scattered way that he had problems at work. He had borrowed a large amount of money from a friend to cover a shortfall. He thought he'd pay it back quickly, but things didn't go as planned. Now the friend was demanding the money back urgently. That's why he sold the car. "It was just one bad decision, Alina, I swear. I'll never do it again. I'll fix everything. I'll pay it all back. Just please, don't tell your dad. He'll kill me. We can solve this. Just the two of us." He tried to take her hands. Alina pulled away. She looked at him carefully, trying to decide if he was still lying. This version at least made more sense than the fur coat nonsense. Job troubles. That happens. Maybe he really had just panicked and made a stupid, weak choice. She wanted to believe that. She wanted to believe their marriage could still be saved. "How much?" she asked, her voice dry and cold. He named the amount. It was big. Very big. But it matched the price of the car. "Okay," Alina said, standing up. Her decision wasn't planned. It came from a last bit of hope. "We won't tell my dad yet. But we need to understand everything about our money. All of it. Bring me every document, every bank statement, every account. We'll figure it out." This sounded like forgiveness. He jumped up and started running around the apartment, grabbing a folder of papers and his laptop. They sat down at the kitchen table. The same table where their wedding toast had once been made. Now it had become a war room, the place where they'd try to fix a financial disaster. For nearly an hour they went through everything. The reality was harsh. There were almost no savings left. There were still 2 weeks left until payday. Alina looked at the numbers and felt her heart sink. At one point, she reached for an old leather briefcase standing near the table. It was from Rodian's previous job. Maybe there's something useful in here. Old bank papers, maybe. She thought. Rodian suddenly stiffened. Too fast. Too obvious. "Don't touch that," he said, almost snatching the briefcase from her hands. "It's just junk. Old documents from work. Nothing important. I keep meaning to throw it away." He said it too quickly. His smile looked fake. Then he pushed the briefcase into the corner, like he was hiding something dangerous. Alina didn't argue. She acted like she believed him. But deep inside something clicked. A warning. He hadn't panicked while showing her their empty bank accounts. But this old briefcase. It made him panic like a scared animal. They kept going through the paperwork until after midnight. Rodian, drained and quiet, went to take a shower. Alina said she needed some air and stepped onto the balcony. But really, she was waiting for him to fall asleep. When she came back, he was already asleep like a baby, peaceful, as if nothing had happened. She stood by the bed and looked at his calm face. Who is this man, she thought. She tiptoed out and went into the living room. The briefcase was still there in the corner. It looked dark and heavy. Her heart was pounding loudly in her ears. She felt like a thief in her own home. She sat down on the floor and placed the briefcase on her lap. The locks were old brass. They clicked loudly in the quiet room. Inside there were old catalogs, flyers, dusty papers, junk. For a moment she felt guilty. Maybe I am just stressed and overthinking, she thought. But then her fingers felt something strange at the bottom of the case. Something uneven under the cardboard lining. She picked at the edge with her nail. And the cardboard lifted up easily. Underneath was a secret compartment. Inside it was one single plastic folder. Her hands were shaking as she opened it. It wasn't trash. It was a printed loan agreement, on official stamped paper. At the top was the name, I.P. Gromov Arkady Semenovic. Alina's blood ran cold. Everyone in town knew that name. Gromov was a moneylender. But not just any moneylender. He was the kind people whispered about. Stories of ruined lives, lost businesses, broken families. Gromov didn't forgive debt. He destroyed people with it. She stared at the document. Her eyes landed on the amount. It was twice as much as what Rodion told her. And then she saw the part circled in red. The due date with interest. Her heart stopped. The deadline was the day after tomorrow. No air in her lungs. She sat on the cold floor, shaking, clutching the folder. That name, Gromov, wasn't just a name. It was a warning. Threat. She remembered the clinic clients, the gossip, the fear. People who lost everything. And now, Rodion was one of them. And he had lied. About everything. There was no friend. No small mistake. This wasn't just a bad decision. It was a full-blown disaster. One that would explode in just 2 days. She looked toward the bedroom. Rodion was sleeping peacefully, as if he'd dumped the whole mess on her and went to bed. But Alina didn't feel hate. She felt something worse. Horror. Cold, sticky fear for what he had dragged them into. And then she understood one thing clearly. She couldn't fix this alone. The promise she gave him, "We'll handle this ourselves," meant nothing now. That promise was made to a different man. Not the liar sleeping in their bed. She knew she had to act now. Carefully, she put the folder back into its hiding place and locked the briefcase. But before that, she pulled out her phone. Her hands shook, but she took clear photos of every page. The numbers, the signatures, and most importantly, Gromov's name. Then she stood up, quietly walked to the hallway, got dressed, and slipped out of the apartment. No taxi. She just ran. The night was cold and wet. Streetlights lit up the empty roads. She ran, not feeling the icy wind, not stopping. Just one thought in her mind. Her parents' house. The only place she could feel safe. Her father opened the door. He was in pajamas, an old robe wrapped around him. One look at her pale face, wide eyes. And he understood. No questions. He simply stepped aside and let her in. Her mother came out of the bedroom, worried. "Alinaka, what happened? My God, you look awful." Alina couldn't say a word. She just handed her phone to her dad. He took it and looked at the screen, confused at first. Then his eyebrows drew together. He zoomed in, reading carefully. Her mom looked over his shoulder. And Alina saw both of their faces change. Her mom's face twisted in fear. Her dad's face turned to stone. All the anger from yesterday was gone. Now there was only one thing left. Cold, heavy determination. "Gromov," her dad whispered. In that one word there was everything. He understood how serious it was. He was disgusted. And Rodion was already judged. He gave the phone to her mom, looked at Alina and said, "Go to the kitchen, Lida. Make her some sweet, strong tea." Her mom, crying, led Alina away. Her dad stayed in the hallway, staring out the window into the dark night for a long time. Then he came to the kitchen, sat across from Alina, and said firmly, "Tomorrow morning I'll take care of everything. You stay out of this now. And don't talk to him. Understood?" The next day, Alina didn't go to work. She called in sick. All the stress, all the lies, and the sleepless night hit her hard. She felt completely broken. That morning, her dad left early without saying much. He just told her mom, "I'll be back soon." Alina had no idea what he planned to do. Would he pay off the debt? But how? They didn't have that kind of money. All their savings were in his small construction business. Pulling that much money out would stop everything. But Alina knew her father. If he said, "I'll handle it," he already had a plan. Ignat didn't go to Rodion. He went straight to the bank. There was no point in talking to his son-in-law. It would just be a waste of time. He took almost everything out of his business account. Money meant to buy wood and roofing materials. Then he called Rudin. "In 10 minutes, be in my car. I'll send you the address." Rudin showed up pale as a ghost. He had clearly woken up, seen Alina was gone, and understood what happened. He got in the car, too scared to say a word. Ignat handed him the phone, showing the photo of the contract. Rudin shrank into his seat. They didn't go to Gromov. Ignat didn't even want to see that man. He just made a bank transfer to the account listed in the contract. He printed the receipt 3 times. He kept one, gave one to Rodion, and coldly said, "This is your shame. Frame it." Then he drove him back home. Before Rodion could get out of the car, Ignat said, "From today you work for me. I paid Gromov. But now you owe me every single ruble. And you're not working in an office pretending to do something. Have real jobs. You'll dig, lift, mix concrete. First to arrive, last to leave. Until the debt is paid. I won't let my daughter suffer. But I won't support the fool who almost ruined her either." Rudin just sat there broken. No charm, no smile. Just pure shame and fear. "I agree," he whispered. That's how the new life started. Rudin actually began working for his father-in-law. Every day. He left at 7 a.m. for the construction site. Came home late, dirty and exhausted. His soft, manicured hands were now full of cuts and blisters. He barely spoke. He'd come in, eat quietly, shower and fall asleep. Alina felt like she was living in a fog. Yes, Gromov was gone. But now there was sadness, guilt and cold distance. Their marriage turned into something fake. They were just 2 people in the same apartment. At night, she'd look at his tired face. Sometimes she felt sorry, sometimes just cold. It was a fragile peace. Everything seemed to go the way her father planned. Rodion worked hard. Ignat came to check on the job sometimes. He didn't yell or insult Rodion, but he didn't go easy on him either. Work is work. A week passed. On Friday evening, as usual, Ignat sat at his office desk to count the week's earnings and prepare bills. He was old school, liked everything to be in order. He opened his laptop, logged into the company bank account, checked payments, verified purchases, and then he stopped. One transaction didn't match. A large amount of money had been transferred to a strange, unknown account. The amount was huge. Way more than the car had cost. Way more than the debt to Gromov. It was almost all the money left in Ignat's small business. His heart skipped a beat. He thought it was a mistake. System glitch. He opened the payment details and froze. The money had been sent 3 days ago. The reason said something vague. Consulting services. But the worst part wasn't that. For small purchases and basic expenses at the worksites, Ignat had given Rodion limited access to the company account. A test, a sign of trust. Now, in the payment details, the executor was clearly shown. Rodion's digital signature, linked to his phone number. The same man he saved from debt. The man working hard on his sites. And at the same time, he was secretly draining Ignat's account. Ignat sat frozen, staring at that one line on the screen. He refreshed the page again and again. But there it was, Rodion's signature. Clear as day. His ears were ringing. The betrayal was sharp and deep. Ignat had helped him keep his dignity, save his family. And this is how Rodion repaid him. He didn't call. He didn't yell. He just got up, got dressed and left the house. It was almost 11 p.m. He didn't care if he woke his daughter or disturbed the neighbors. The fury inside him pushed everything else aside. The doorbell rang like a warning bell. Alina opened the door and saw her father's pale, hard face, and she immediately knew. Something was wrong. Again. She stepped aside. Rudin came out of the bathroom in a robe, towel on his shoulder. When he saw Ignat, he froze. Ignat said nothing. He just stepped forward, held out his phone, and showed Rodion the screen with a bank transaction. "What is this?" he asked quietly, but his voice sounded like steel. Rudin looked, went pale, then collapsed against the wall and slid to the floor. He didn't argue. He didn't defend himself. He just cried. I don't know. I didn't mean to. It wasn't me. Alina stood watching. She wasn't even shocked anymore. She had thought they hit rock bottom. But this was even lower. She walked to her father and leaned on him to keep steady. Who if not you? Ignat asked coldly. This is your signature, Rudin. Yours. Rudin, sobbing, finally blurted out. It was Mom. Alina and Ignat exchanged a look. Her again. Faina Igorevna. The same woman always causing problems. She called me 3 days ago, Rudin said through tears. She said it was a once-in-a-lifetime business deal. We needed to invest right away. In a month we'd get triple the money. Enough to pay you back, Dad. And more. I believed her. She's my mother. There was so much despair in his voice that for a second, Alina almost felt sorry for him. But no. Whether he was a thief or just a fool didn't matter now. He had broken her trust too many times. Where is she? Alina asked, her voice flat and cold. She left, Rudin whispered. Said she was going to a sanatorium for stress. Said not to call. She'd call us when things were sorted out. Sanatorium. After asking her mother for money to fix the roof, this lie sounded just as dumb and fake as the fur coat story. Alina didn't want to hear any more of it. She turned around, grabbed her bag from the hanger and took the keys to her parents' car. Her dad had left them with her for a while. Where are you going? Ignat asked. To Faina Igorevna's place, Alina answered. I have the keys. She gave them to me in case the flowers needed watering. I need to check something. She didn't say what exactly she needed to check. She wasn't sure herself, but she felt like she had to go. To that apartment, from where all the lies ruining her life seemed to begin. Her mother-in-law's place smelled old, like dusty furniture. Everything looked neat and clean, but it felt lifeless. There were porcelain elephants on the shelves and faded family photos on the walls. Alina turned on the light and walked into the living room. She didn't know what she was looking for. Just anything, any clue that could explain this crazy mess. Then her eyes landed on the fireplace mantel. Among the photos and elephant statues was a glossy postcard. Bright blue ocean, palm trees, a white yacht on clear water. It didn't look like any sanatorium near Moscow. He picked it up. On the back, there were a few cheesy lines in cursive, clearly written by a man. Thinking of you. The sun, the sea, and you. What could be better? See you soon. Gleb. The name and handwriting seemed oddly familiar. She flipped the card over again and again, trying to remember. Then it hit her, her birthday. Around 4 years ago, before she even met Rudin. Back then, Faina had really tried to set her up with a wealthy and promising widower. He was an old family friend, she said. He gave her a fancy gift, and a birthday card with the same handwriting. Alina's heart started racing. She slipped the postcard into her pocket and ran to the old bookshelf where she knew Faina kept the photo albums. She pulled out the biggest one with a soft cover and started flipping through fast. A wedding. Rudin in the army. Then a celebration, Faina's birthday. She's smiling at the table. And next to her, a well-dressed man with gray hair and a smug face. He had his arm around Faina. Alina's stomach turned. She knew that man. She slammed the album shut and ran out. She jumped in the car and drove, not to her parents' place but to her own apartment. She needed to find proof. She rushed in, ignoring her father and Rodion crying on the floor. She went straight to the bedroom chest of drawers, where she kept old photos and documents. She threw everything out, envelopes, papers, pictures, until she found it, the birthday card. Dear Alina, please accept my congratulations. Signed Gleb. Then she found the photo. From the same party. She's holding flowers. And right beside her, Faina made him take a picture. The same promising widower. Gleb. The same man from Faina's photo album. The same man in the postcard. And in that moment everything clicked. Faina wasn't in a sanatorium. She wasn't alone. She was at a fancy resort with her lover, that same Gleb. And the money that paid for it all. The yacht, the beach, the lies. It was her father's money, stolen and transferred by her own husband. Alina stood frozen in the middle of the bedroom, surrounded by old photos. One hand holding the postcard, the other the photo. Her father and Rodion came in. Ignat looked concerned. Rudin looked confused and desperate. But Alina didn't even see them. She stared at Gleb's smug face in the photo, and something inside her snapped. The fear, the pain, the confusion gone, replaced by cold, sharp rage. She was no longer a victim. She was at war with her own family. "What's this? Who is this?" her father asked, stepping closer. Alina handed him the photo. "This is Gleb," she said. "The man Fina tried to marry me off to before I met Rodin." Then she threw the postcard on the bed. "This is their vacation," she said. "Paid for with your money." Ignat stared at the photo, then slowly turned to Rudin, still on the floor. "Do you know him?" Rudin looked up, eyes red, and nodded. "Yes, Gleb Arsenievich. He's Mom's old friend. He told us about the business idea. He said it was solid. That's all." And just like that, the truth was complete. Not just a lover, an accomplice. Ignat didn't say another word. He picked Rodin up from the floor like a misbehaving kid and led him out of the apartment. "Are you coming with us? You'll stay at our place tonight. I need you close until I understand what this mess really is." The door slammed shut behind them. Alina was left standing alone, in the middle of her ruined apartment and her ruined life. But there were no more tears. She quietly gathered the scattered photos and placed them back in a box. She put the postcard and the photo of Gleb into her bag. These were now evidence. She didn't sleep that night. She sat in the kitchen, phone in hand, searching for everything she could find about Gleb Arsenievich. There wasn't much online. A few mentions of a respectable man running a shady consulting business. His name in local gossip columns. But Alina's gut told her that was just a cover. As soon as it was 9 a.m., she called her best friend, Renata. Renata was a lawyer. Not just any lawyer. A sharp, cynical, and dangerously smart civil defense attorney. She was the only person besides her parents that Alina fully trusted. "Renata, I need your help. It's urgent." They met an hour later at a quiet coffee shop downtown. Alina didn't waste time with greetings. She laid everything out. Photos, a copy of the contract with Gromov, a printout of the bank transfer, and told the whole story from the sold car to the lover at the seaside resort. Renata listened silently, her sharp eyebrows rising only now and then. When Alina finished, Renata sat back, eyes scanning the papers on the table. She finally said. "Alina, your mother-in-law isn't just a manipulative woman. She's playing at a whole different level. And this Gleb guy, what's his last name?" Alina told her. Renata pulled out her tablet and started typing quickly. She stared at the screen for a while, her expression growing more serious. "Okay, girl," she said. "This is much worse than you thought." She turned the screen toward Alina. It was a private legal forum where lawyers shared notes about scammers and shady operators. Gleb's name popped up over and over again. Same pattern every time. He'd charm wealthy older women, gain their trust, and then start helping them with investments, selling property, solving legal problems. In the end, the women were left broke, homeless, and in debt. Some cases even went to court, but he always acted through other people, staying in the shadows. "He's not just her lover," Renata said. "He's her partner, or maybe even her mentor. They're working this together." And suddenly, everything clicked in Alina's mind. This wasn't just bad luck. This was a plan, cold, calculated, and precise. Selling the car. That wasn't just for quick cash. It was to start conflict between Alina and her father. Dragging Rodin into Gromov's debt. That wasn't just stupidity, it was psychological warfare. To break him, humiliate him, destroy his confidence. Then, after his father saved him, stealing from that same father. Betrayal that would crush Rodion even further and make him totally dependent and defeated. But why? Why destroy your own son and husband like this? Yes, money was part of it. But Alina felt there was something deeper. Something worth setting this whole twisted scheme in motion. Then it hit her, the apartment. A spacious, 3-bedroom apartment in a prime location. A Stalin-era building in the city center. It had belonged to Rodion's grandparents, on his father's side. Fina had no legal claim to it. But Alina remembered her words, how she always hinted, bitterly, that she deserved that apartment. That she had done so much for the family, and that apartment should have been hers. Now it all made sense. She thought of the apartment as hers, like she had some twisted right to it. And now it seemed she had decided to take it back. Just the thought gave Alina chills. She said goodbye to Renata, promised to stay in touch, and went back to her and Rodion's apartment. But now she looked at it differently. This wasn't just their home, it was a battleground. She needed proof. Accusations alone, no matter how logical, wouldn't be enough. She knew Fina would deny everything, act like the victim, and make Alina look like some jealous crazy woman accusing a poor sick lady. Alina needed facts. Documents. She began searching the apartment room by room. She didn't know exactly what she was looking for, but she knew something had to be there, something they had missed. She dug through every drawer, every closet shelf, even the pockets of Rodion's old clothes. Nothing, just bills, old receipts, and junk. She was about to give up when she entered Rodion's little office. He liked to call it his workspace, even though he mostly just sat there with his laptop. Her eyes landed on the bookshelf. Among the old detective novels and car magazines, one book stood out, thick, heavy, with a dark cover. The Foundations of Jurisprudence. Rodion had never read it in his life. He liked to brag about it, said you should know the law, but Alina knew he'd never even opened it. Now it was slightly out of line with the others, sticking out a little. She pulled it off the shelf. The book was heavy and dusty. She flipped it open at random, and between the pages, like a hidden bookmark, was a folded sheet of paper. Not just any paper, a printed form folded in 4. Alina's hands trembled as she opened it. It was a rough draft, full of edits and ink smudges, all in Fina's handwriting. It was a general power of attorney, in Rodion's name, giving Fina Igorevna Chernova full rights to manage all his property. Movable and immovable. Sell, gift, exchange, everything. At the end, one line had a big exclamation mark next to it, including the right to sell the apartment at the address. And it listed their apartment, the one in the city center. Alina stared at the paper. Felt like holding a venomous snake. This was it, the evidence. The whole plan laid bare. It wasn't just about money. They were after the apartment. Fina and her scammer lover had been carefully, step by step, breaking Rodion down, emotionally and financially, until he was weak enough to sign. But now Alina saw it clearly. Her anger turned cold. She wasn't scared anymore. She took photos of the form from every angle and sent them to Renata with a short message. Here's the end. Then she folded the form neatly, put it back in the book, and placed the book on the shelf just as it was. Let them think their secret was still safe. Renata replied almost instantly. Call me. Urgent. Alina called. Do you understand what this means? Renata's voice was tense. This was preparation for a crime. They were so close to breaking him. Just one more push, and he would have signed everything. But proving it in court, she continued. Nearly impossible. Fina will say it's just a draft. That she was only helping her son with paperwork. She'll say you're overreacting. That you made it all up. They were going to twist the whole story. Alina knew that. Her friend was right. Going to the police wouldn't help. Confronting Fina directly wouldn't work either. Fina was a master manipulator. She would make Alina look like a jealous, crazy daughter-in-law attacking a poor, sick old lady. In their small town, reputation was everything. Gossip and judgment from neighbors were worse than any court. Fina knew that, and so did Alina. That's why Alina couldn't act openly. She needed a different stage, somewhere public, where Fina's lies would fall apart and the truth couldn't be denied. And such a stage existed. Fina Igorevna had been the head of the housing committee in their large neighborhood for years. She loved being in charge, organizing cleanup days, courtyard parties, and handling local problems. To the neighbors, she was the image of honesty and community spirit. In 1 week, her big moment was coming, the annual neighborhood celebration at the local community center, with tea, performances, and her report on all the work she had done. That was her spotlight. And Alina decided, that's where this drama would end. But first she had to rattle Fina, make her feel cornered. The plan came quickly. There was one person on the housing committee whom Fina feared, Pyotr Maximovich, a retired military officer, old school, honest to the core. He was a friend of Alina's father and hated lies. The next day, Alina waited for him at the building entrance. She approached with a sad, confused look. Pyotr Maximovich, hi. I feel terrible even asking, but I really need your advice. I'm desperate. She didn't show him the power of attorney. That would be too direct. Instead, she showed him a bank printout, a large sum of money stolen from her father's account by Rodin. I don't know what to do, she whispered, acting like she was about to cry. Rodin swears his mother, Fina Igorevna, asked him to send it for something urgent. My dad is furious. I'm scared it'll turn into a huge scandal. Could you maybe speak to her quietly? Maybe it's all a misunderstanding. Pyotr Maximovich turned red with anger as he looked at the numbers. He knew Alina's father and respected him. This kind of money. From his company. A misunderstanding, he grunted. I'll speak to her right away. Alina knew she'd played her part well. Pyotr wouldn't stay silent. He'd go to Fina, demand answers, and make her realize the truth was starting to come out. Fina would panic and try to control the damage. And there was no better place to do that than at her own big event. She would try to fix her image, protect her son, and stop the rumors before they spread. And that's exactly what happened. That same evening, Fina called Rodin, who was still living with Alina's parents. Alina didn't know what they talked about, but after the call, Rodin became even more withdrawn. He hardly ate, barely spoke, and walked around like a ghost. The day of the neighborhood party arrived. The community center was full. Seniors in nice clothes, moms with kids, local activists. Fina was in the center of it all, floating around in a sharp, stylish suit, smiling, shaking hands, accepting praise. She looked totally in control. Alina came with her parents. She sat in the last row, quiet, trying not to be noticed. She waited for the moment Fina would go on stage to give her report. That's when Alina planned to stand up and ask one simple question about the money stolen from her father. But things didn't go as planned. When the part with the kids' performances ended, and Fina was about to go on stage, something unexpected happened. Rodin stumbled up onto the stage. He wasn't wearing a jacket, and his shirt was open at the chest. In one hand, he held a half-empty bottle of cognac. People in the hall started whispering and chuckling. Fina stopped in her tracks. Her face twisted in shock and anger. Rodin walked to the microphone. He was clearly drunk, but not out of control. He was in that emotional state where a drunk person can suddenly say or do anything. I'm sorry, he said into the mic. His voice echoed through the hall. I know I'm not on the speakers list, but I have to say something. I can't stay silent anymore. The room went completely quiet. Everyone stared. Alina felt her whole body go cold. This wasn't part of her plan. You all know me. And you know my mother. He looked around, his eyes glassy. You think we're good people. But we're not. Or rather, my mom is a saint, and I'm the bad guy. I'm a piece of trash. He took a big swig straight from the bottle. People gasped. Fina rushed toward the stage, trying to stop him, but he didn't listen. In the past month, I've hurt people who didn't deserve it. My wife Alina. Her parents. I sold the car her dad gave us. And then I took money from him. A large amount. Without asking. I stole it. He paused. The hall was dead silent. Alina sat frozen. He had just confessed to everything, but what he said next changed everything. But I didn't do it for myself, he shouted. His voice broke, full of emotion. I did it for her, my mother. He pointed at Fina, who stood frozen near the stage. She's sick. Very sick. She's dying. She needed money for urgent treatment abroad. She didn't want to tell anyone. She didn't want to burden us. She's strong like that. So I did what I had to do. I had to save her. He dropped to his knees and started crying, covering his face with his hands. And at that moment, Fina's mask came off. She ran to him, hugged him tight, stroked his head. She cried with him. But she didn't say anything. She didn't need to. Just seeing them, this grieving, suffering mother and her desperate son, was more powerful than any words. The crowd reacted instantly. Some women cried. Men shook their heads in sympathy. Someone shouted, "Stay strong, son. We're with you, Fina Igorevna." In seconds, Rodion went from being a thief to a tragic hero, a devoted son. And Fina became a brave mother, silently fighting death. Alina sat there watching. She felt hundreds of eyes staring at her, not with sympathy but with judgment. In that moment, to everyone in the room, Alina was just a cold-hearted wife. Someone who cared only about money and cars. Someone who pushed her husband to the edge during his mother's illness. She had been publicly shamed, destroyed, and left alone. Fina and Rodion's perfect performance turned the truth into a weapon, and used it against her. Alina didn't even remember how she left the hall. She just got up and walked out, eyes straight ahead, feeling every burning look on her back. Her parents followed. They drove in silence. Her father's hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly. His knuckles turned white. Her mother cried quietly in the back seat. But even they said nothing. What could they say? The show Fina and Rodion had put on was so good, it even made her own parents doubt. A dying mother. That kind of story can crush any argument. Back home, her father poured himself a drink. He downed it in one gulp and winced. "I don't believe a word of it," he said quietly. But damn, how did they pull it off? That was professional. Her mother looked at Alina with a mix of doubt and pity. "Alinaka, maybe we just don't know the whole story. Maybe she really is sick. Maybe we've been too harsh." Alina looked at her mother, and in that moment she realized she was completely alone. Even her own parents, the people closest to her, had started to doubt her. And she understood why. Accusing someone of faking a deadly illness. That's serious. Fina and Rodion had planned everything perfectly. They created a situation where any accusation against them would sound cruel and unbelievable. The next day everything fell apart. Alina's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Distant relatives, old classmates, and random acquaintances were calling non-stop. Some felt sorry for poor Fina Igorevna. Others blamed Alina. "How could you abandon your husband at such a difficult time?" they said. Her neighbors turned their backs when they saw her. People whispered behind her in stores. Alina had become a complete outcast. She took unpaid leave from work. She couldn't face anyone anymore. Not their sympathetic looks, not their judgment. So she stayed home, alone in her apartment, feeling like the walls were closing in. She had lost. Completely. 2 days later, Renata called. So, still sitting there suffering. Her friend's voice was harsh as usual, with no room for pity. "What else can I do?" Alina answered weakly. "Fight, idiot. Are you seriously going to let those 2 failed actors ruin your life? You don't get it, Renata. Have nothing. Anything I say against their sob story will sound insane. They won." There was silence for a few seconds. Then Renata said, "Then you don't need to say anything. You need proof. Something no one can deny. Something solid. Real evidence." Alina closed her eyes. "Like what?" "Power of attorney. Fina will just say she was helping her son because he was grieving. Payment receipts. They've already explained it all away. They twisted everything I had and used it against me. But then a name floated up from her memory like a lifeline. Gleb, she whispered. What Gleb? Renata asked. Their partner. Fina's lover. He's the weak spot. He's not tied to them by blood or tragedy. If we can find something on him. Now that's what I'm talking about, Renata perked up. I'll dig into him. I have access to a few databases. If he's a con artist, there will be a trail. Angry women. And nothing's more dangerous than a woman who's been lied to and robbed. The next few days were torture. Alina barely left the apartment. Renata called every night, but the updates were discouraging. She found women who'd been tricked just like Alina, but they were too scared or too ashamed to come forward. Some talked, but their stories were a mess with no real proof. It wasn't enough. Alina was close to giving up, when one night, Renata called with a spark in her voice. I found her. A woman named Larissa. He scammed her 2 years ago. Promised to marry her. Convinced her to sell her parents' apartment and invest the money in a fake business. He vanished. She was left with nothing. And she hates him. She wants revenge. She'll testify. Alina held her breath. Will she help us? Even better, she says she knows his weakness. They met Larissa the next day. She was pale and tired, her eyes dull, but behind them burned a flame of pure hatred. He ruined my life, she said with no emotion. I'll do whatever it takes to make him pay. We need proof he's working with Fina, Alina said. Larissa gave a crooked smile. Then we use his ego. He loves to brag. He likes feeling smart and superior, like he's playing everyone. Larissa's plan was risky. She had Gleb's new number. She'd call him, pretend to forgive him, say she missed him and wanted to start fresh. She'd tell him she had a small inheritance and wanted to invest again. The idea was to feed his pride and lower his guard, then get him talking and record everything. The next day, they sat in Larissa's car, parked in a quiet courtyard. Larissa was in the front seat, gripping her phone with shaking hands. Renata hooked up a recorder. Ready? Renata asked. Larissa nodded, took a deep breath and pressed call. The ringing felt endless. Alina didn't breathe. Then a man's voice came through the speaker. Smooth, smug. Listen, it was him, Gleb, Larissa said. Her voice shook a little, but she played her part perfectly. She talked and talked, saying how sorry she was, how much she missed him, how she now realized he was the best man in her life. At first, Gleb sounded careful. But soon his voice changed. He started to enjoy it. Course she missed him. How could anyone not miss someone like him? Then Larissa got to the real point. She casually mentioned that she had received a small inheritance and didn't know what to do with it. Do you have someone now? She asked like it was nothing. Because I'm scared I'll get fooled again. That's when Gleb let loose. He laughed loudly, cold and mean. Oh, don't worry, honey, he said. I'm working on something better now. I found a widow, rich, well, not super rich, but she's got a valuable apartment in the city center. And a dumb son. Alina froze. She grabbed Renata's hand tightly. We're working that fool hard, Gleb continued proudly. We've almost got him. He believes his dying mom will do anything for him. One last push, and he'll sign the power of attorney. Then the apartment is ours. Clean and easy. He kept talking, laughing at the idiot son and the old cow who thought he loved her. Alina, Renata, and Larissa sat in the car, listening to every word. It was a full, clear confession from a criminal. When Gleb finally ended the call, Larissa slowly lowered the phone. Renata stopped the recording and looked at Alina. Well, friend. I think we've got him. Alina took the recorder. It wasn't just a recording, it was a bomb. Clear, solid proof of everything. Gleb's voice. His words. No way to deny it. Alina sat there, listening as his evil laugh faded. Finally, after what felt like forever, she could breathe again. She looked at Renata, then at Larissa. Larissa had tears in her eyes, but not from sadness, from victory. She had taken her revenge. "Thank you," Alina said softly. "Don't thank me. Just do it," Larissa replied, wiping her tears. "Crush that arrogant peacock. Go destroy them." Alina didn't go home. She went straight to her parents' house. On the way, she kept playing the recording in her mind. Every cruel laugh. Every word about the widow and her stupid son. But now, instead of pain, she felt cold determination. Her parents were in the kitchen, tired and quiet. Radin was still there, hiding in his room. Without a word, Alina put the recorder on the table and pressed play. They listened in silence. Her mother's doubt turned into horror, then into anger. Her father's face went from tired to hard, like a judge ready to deliver a sentence. When the recording ended, he looked at Alina. "What are you going to do?" "End this war," she said. "Once and for all." On their stage. The next House Committee meeting was in a week. The main item. Annual budget approval. Fina's favorite event. She loved showing off numbers and talking about responsibility and trust. It was her spotlight. Alina prepared all week. She didn't sleep much. She gave the audio to Renata, who cleaned it up and made several copies. Her father called all his old friends, respected neighbors. He didn't explain, just said, "Come to the meeting. My daughter will speak." He also invited Pyotr Maximovich, the retired officer Alina once told about the theft. The circle was now complete. On the day of the meeting, the community hall was full again. But this time the energy was different. No smiles, no celebration, just tension. People had heard the rumors about the Chernov family. Fina felt it. She tried to look calm, wearing her best suit and flawless hair, but she was nervous. And this time it wouldn't end the way she expected. Radin, pale and tired-looking, was sitting in the front row next to his mom. He had come to support her since she was unwell. Alina noticed Gleb standing in the far corner of the hall. He had come to enjoy what he thought would be Fina's big moment. He was smiling smugly, unaware that he was about to become the main star of the show. Alina sat in the middle of the room with her parents. Renata quietly made her way to the sound booth with a laptop, while the operator was outside smoking. The meeting started. After some formalities, the floor was given to the chair of the committee, Fina Igorevna. She walked up on stage, fixed her posture, and gave a confident look around the room. "Dear neighbors, dear friends," she began. "I'm happy to see you all here. Today we're here to talk about important issues in our community. But first, I want to thank everyone for the support you've shown me and my family during these hard times." She paused, trying to look sad. People in the audience nodded. "But life goes on," she continued, "and it's our duty to think about the future, about our shared home. So today I present the budget for next year. A budget based on honesty, transparency, and most importantly, trust." Right at the word trust, Alina slowly stood up. Everyone turned to look at her. Fina went silent. Her face froze. She stared at Alina with hate. "Excuse me, Fina Igorevna," Alina said loudly and clearly. "I don't want to take too much of your time. But before we talk about trust and money, I think we should all hear about your other financial partnerships." Fina turned pale. "What kind of accusation is this?" she snapped. "If you have personal problems, we can discuss them elsewhere." "No," Alina replied firmly. "We'll discuss it here. Right now." That was the signal. Renata pressed a button, and suddenly Gleb's voice boomed from the speakers. Loud, clear, confident. Everyone heard his arrogant laugh. "Found a widow here." His voice echoed through the room. And just like that, Alina's difficult but powerful story reached its peak. A story about betrayal, lies, and how one woman stood up to the system and took back her dignity. This story likely made many people think. So now we ask you, who do you think was most to blame? Was it Radin, weak and unable to grow up, just a puppet in his mother's hands? Or was it Fina, whose greed and selfishness led her to ruin her own son for the sake of an apartment. Can their actions be excused in any way? And what about Alina? Was her final move justice? Was it smart revenge and self-defense? Or was it too harsh, too public? Should she have kept things private? What would you have done in her place? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Please write in the comments. Which character touched you the most? What lesson did you learn from this story? If this story made you feel something, please give it a like. That means the world to us. It tells us our work matters. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. There are many more true, emotional, and inspiring stories waiting for you. Thank you for staying with us until the end. Take care of yourself and your loved ones. And always choose the truth, even when it's hard. All the best and see you next time.